I'm on the half-acre farm that I started this spring with 5 members. We call this Shit Hits the Fan farm. And it's a cooperative farm with 5 different parties. And we all threw in $5,000 to fund it. Have only spent about 14 of that so far. And this is a new farming experiment for me because it's about sustenance and not about commercial growing or making money. And in this video, I want to share with you guys some key reasons as to why a half acre like this is such little work. We're only putting in 1 man day a week. So 8 hours of work every 7 days to maintain this farm. I'll explain throughout the video why that is. And one thing I want to say is I've documented the entire process of this at FromTheField.tv, from assembling the irrigation manifolds to building the wobbler sets to putting in everything to do with irrigation, making these greenhouses, everything. This has all been fully documented at FromTheField.tv, which is my membership site. And in this video, I want to just kind of share with you guys kind of the big picture, the macro view of this farm, and explain to you why it's been so easy to do. And I hope that I can inspire and perhaps empower some of you to do the same. All right, this is a lease. We broke ground on this farm, I believe it was early April, and this patch used to be a half acre of a portion of an orchard. And we've got 60% of the field planted at this point. But we started this farm back then, a small group of us. There's kind of 5 parties involved, 2 groups of couples. And we wanted to secure our food supply for if things go south in the fall. And I still believe that they might. But I hope I'm wrong. And so I thought, well, why don't we get some land? I know tons of farmers in the area, so it wouldn't be hard for a guy like me with the experience that I have and the connections I have to get a lease. So this came relatively easy. And let's just grow some crops. Let's all pitch in. So 5 parties pitched in $5,000 each, and which so far been far more than enough budget to cover everything to do this. And let's grow a bunch of storage crops and put some high tunnels up so that during the winter time we've got not only lots of storage crops, but we also have some fresh crops we can eat, such as spinach, kale, carrots, beets, parsnips. And that's the kind of the story of this farm. Let me tell you a little bit about what we're growing here, and I'll talk about why it's so easy to do this if you're not commercially growing. So this is a half acre. We've got 5 bed blocks. Maybe I'll start down here and kind of work my way through. So again, it's all storage crops, and at this point 60% of the field is planted. We still have some areas tarped because those areas are going to be, we've still got some more, we got 3 more sets of transplants to go in. We've got some more fall or some red cabbage that needs to go in. We've got some celery and celeriac to go in. Those are the last of our transplants. And then we'll be direct seeding our fall carrots in August, as well as our parsnips. And then from there we'll be seeding, we'll also be seeding beets at that time. And then we'll also be, come late September, early October, be seeding spinach. And probably in September we'll also be putting in some romaine lettuce plugs. And all that stuff will be under tunnels. This farm is going to have 6 caterpillar tunnels in total. We only have 1 up right now, the one behind me, and I'll show you where the rest are going to go. So let's just do a little quick walk around the farm and show you what we've got here. So again, we've got 5 bed blocks, 50-foot beds, 30 inches as always, and we've got 12 beds per block. We've got a dual irrigation system on this farm. So every block has drip and wobblers. There's various reasons for that, is if we want to direct seed a crop or we want to just throw some water on the crop, we can do that. For the most part, everything's watered by drip. But this is some corn that we're growing. Not so much a storage crop, kind of a fun crop. We will actually process a lot of it and freeze it. And there will be 2 caterpillar tunnels that go here. So our cat tunnels cover 4 beds. And in this, on this side, so this is our south here. So we'll have a cat tunnel on these first 4 beds. We have 18-inch walkways on this. and then we'll have 2 beds of dead space, and then the next caterpillar tunnel will go here, and then we'll also have 2 beds of dead space for the winter. And that's because in the winter we get a bit of shadow that comes in here, and so I wanted to make sure those greenhouses are all solid. So here is going to be corn, and then we'll have some spinach and kale and romaine down here. In this block, this is that was block 5, this is block 4. We've got lots of storage onions, so we've got a bed of shallots, 2 beds of red onions, 2 beds of winter leeks, and then this is just, these 2 beds here are just some kind of auxiliary stuff, some extra stuff that one of our members who doesn't have his own home garden put some stuff in for himself, because we got lots of extra space here. And then these blocks will be transplanted with more cabbage, so there'll be no greenhouse that goes on this block. Actually, blocks 4 and 3 will have no tunnels because the ground kind of slopes up here, so I just figured we keep our tunnels on the flat ground. And we've got lots of potatoes here, so we've also got a little bit of 1 bed of cabbage there. We got more up here, so we've got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 beds times 50. That's 1,000 row feet of potatoes, so we're pretty covered for potatoes. This whole block, oh yeah, we got another bit of cabbage that's going to go out there. And then in so that's block 3. Block 2, we've got some winter squash, now a tunnel. So these are auxiliary beds, so they won't be wintered over, right? As I said, we want to be a little bit off the fence, so those will be wintered over. Once that squash is harvested, we'll just throw more silage tarps on there. Greenhouse is going to go here. This will be planted with more stuff that's I don't have the farm plan in front of me, but more stuff that's transplanted and direct seeded into the fall. And then we've got our 2 bed gap between those greenhouse, which is right now winter squash, which will be out by the fall. And then another one of these caterpillar tunnels. You can see one of them there. We've got them open-ended right now just because it's summer. Another caterpillar tunnel will go there. And then heading over here, block 1 is actually the only block that's fully planted out. It's an interesting plot of land because we've got very rocky soil here, super rocky. Block 1 and 2 are more or less the gravy. They're the best soil, the least rocky. 3, 4 are not good, and 5 is horrendous. So we've kind of arranged things according to that, but so far it seems to be working okay. We're making do. We did pull a lot of rocks out at the beginning. So in block 1, oh, here you can actually see our hybrid irrigation system running. These wobblers, these are mini wobblers, and so we have drip and wobblers. The reason these wobblers are running in conjunction with the drip is that I've got direct seeded carrots here that have just emerged. Actually, I've got this cover on them to keep birds and stuff like that from picking them away. And with carrots, I always like to water them overhead to germinate them. I don't like drip to germinate carrots. It's always spotty, especially up here. We have fairly sandy soil. And so our wobbler sets cover half of a block. So our mini wobblers can water 6 beds very well and at a fairly low pressure. I love this system. And so yeah, so we've got our, so this is where a caterpillar tunnel will go. After the squash there'll be another caterpillar tunnel just like this one here. And this is our caterpillar tunnel. It's all tomatoes. It's mostly determinate tomatoes, which are a lot of this stuff are not crops that I did commercially. I did in the first couple of years of me farming, but for most of my career, the last 8 years has all been focused on high value crops. So that's the opposite of what this whole farm is all about. And so we've got determinate tomatoes in here, and we've got some indeterminates, and they seem to be coming along just fine. We've got some sun golds just ripening up there. And yeah, so that's basically the whole farm, what it looks like right now. So let's talk about some of the reasons why it's so easy to do this compared to farming commercially. So the main reason why it's super easy is because you're not having to harvest things and replant things day in and day out. When you're growing crops for sustenance, you just kind of look at what you want to eat and you go from there. It's not much different than having a garden. But even in this case, this is actually less work, at least less frequent work than a garden, because everybody involved in this project has their own home garden, and that's where we'll do all of our leafy greens and our herbs and the things that we want to use in the kitchen regularly. We have them at home. This farm is a ways out for all of us. It's a bit of a commute. But the amazing thing with this is that this farm has, in total, this entire season, on average, balanced out to be 1 man day per week. So that means a total of 8 hours, and that could be, say, 4 hours with one person and 4 hours with another person, is all that's been needed to maintain that farm. And that's basically an average, because at the beginning of the season, when we were breaking ground and installing irrigation, preparing beds, moving compost and all that, we had more hands on deck, right? And so, whereas right now, there's entire weeks that go by that nobody's even here. All the irrigation's on timers. So just basically when I sparse out all the work over the season, it's so far worked out to be less than 1 man day a week to maintain this. So context is important as to why there's not a lot of work. The other thing is some of the systems that we've got in place. One is silage tarps have been amazing, because every piece of ground on here has gone through the stale seed bed for at least 2 months. So when we first broke ground on this plot, we had a lot of work to do to grind it up, get rocks out, shape beds multiple times, pull more rocks out of those beds, finish the beds clean, get the compost on, rake the compost, wet the beds down really well, cover them with tarps. And that's basically where we stopped, and the most of the plot sat for almost 2 months, maybe except the first part that we planted, which would have been those tomatoes. And so we're more or less there's very little weed pressure, but this was just an orchard pasture before, so of course there is some weed pressure, but it hasn't been any significant amount of work, and all of our crops are very well established with. There's no competition from the weeds. We got a little bit of couch grass coming back here and there, but very little. The other thing that makes it easy is landscape fabric in all the breaks, and also all the crops that can use landscape fabric, such as squash, which are the slowest growing ones, they all have fabric. So that's another thing that really makes it easy. These are all techniques that were borrowed from my previous 10 years of farming commercially. The other thing that makes it easy is the irrigation is all on timers. So it's completely automated. We don't need to have anybody come up here and turn on and off sprinklers. We do have somebody come up, because one of our members lives just right close to this farm. We will have him or her come here and turn the valves off when we get rainy weather, which is what we've had for the last almost 2 months. So we've barely needed to irrigate anything at all. So those things combined, and I would say the last thing is we put a lot of forethought into this, myself primarily. I mean, I should give credit where credit's due. I mean, I am an experienced grower. Having run a commercial operation for 10 years made this really easy, because I knew exactly what to do. I knew when to do it. I knew intuitively when certain crops should be started. And we made a really good, solid farm plan. And we went from there. The other thing that has really been beneficial to the operation is that though our group isn't all experienced, they have experience in some ways with various different things. Like, for example, one of our members, Warren, is an engineer, and he actually works for my other company, Modern Grower, my tools company, and he is an inventor and builder. He can build anything. So we built these greenhouses from scratch, which was made really easily with a guy like him. But the underlying thing that's made it really easy is the fact that we have all members with equal skin in the game. Everybody has pitched in $5,000 So we had a budget of $25,000. I think at this point we've only spent 14 to get everything. And we've already purchased all the materials for these greenhouses. We just have yet to get them up, but there's no rush because we're still in the middle of summer. But these will go up before September. So we all have equal skin in the game. So everybody wants to see this succeed because everybody is sharing in the harvest. So that's really important, because when you have an employee, you know, you gotta motivate them to do the work. They generally aren't going to be that motivated. Of course, there's great employees that will be motivated, and I've certainly seen a lot of that in my career doing all this stuff. But that's been huge. Another reason this farm has been so easy to maintain and start is we had the equipment, right? I had a BCS tractor with a couple different implements. I have a paper pot transplanter. When we transplanted this corn and these onions, that made it a breeze, right? So having the right equipment up front was certainly part of it. But besides from that, really field and farm equipment, we have no other infrastructure on this farm. We don't have, well, we do have a walk-in cooler here that we can use if we need. So far we haven't needed it, and we might not even need it. We don't have any post-harvest area. We don't have washing stations or any of that. All we have really are the field tools. We have a Jang seeder, we have a paper pot transplanter, we have a BCS rototiller, we have greenhouses, we have all the irrigation supplies. I had all the nursery stuff to do this. I have a nursery at my home base that we use. So those things should be counted for sure. So the thing that I kind of wanted to put to you guys philosophically is, imagine how easy life would be if all we had to do was take care of our own sustenance. Just imagine that. I know a lot of people who watch my channel have probably thought about that before. But for me, going from a commercial farmer who is really hustling and is complete opposite context to what I'm doing now, it's been quite a visceral experience to actually kind of taste what that tastes like, to see what that tastes like, and experience what it's like to work with a community of people who all have equal motivation to feed themselves and have success. And it's quite empowering, because I think in the near future we're going to be going into some kind of new paradigm. I don't want to say new world, because I don't want to have any association with the New World Order, but some kind of new paradigm where we're going to see a shift, and there's going to be some events that will happen that will motivate, incentivize, or force certain change. And I think people are going to have to find ways to cooperate with one another to take care of themselves. And I hope that more people can come together and realize what's really important in their lives, and kind of look at the basics and go, you know what? Maybe we should be cooperating with one another. Maybe we should be doing something like this. Why don't we go get a piece of land and grow some food and feed one another and share the harvest? And it's not about one person in the group making a profit. It's about everybody sharing in the bounty. And it's kind of an interesting, it's an interesting experience. I've always wanted to do this because I've thought the shit was going to hit the fan a long time ago. That's why I got into farming back in 2008. That's why I left my former life as a hipster musician in Montreal to get on the land and learn some intrinsic skills that could help people in if times got tough. And yeah, that's really about it. I kind of wanted to share that with you guys because it's been quite an interesting experience. It is amazing to see how little work it is. I remember last week I got the idea to do this video because I was chatting with a couple of the guys. There's two of them, Lindsay and Blair are a couple. They run an orchard, and so they have some experience on the land, and they've been gardening for a while. So this hasn't really been anything too difficult for them. They've certainly learned a lot, but everybody else has zero experience. And I remember asking Clinton and Lorand, two of our members, you know, how's this been for you guys? Like, how has this been difficult? How has it been? And both of them expressed how easy and enjoyable it has been, how nice it has been to come out and put your heart and your soul into something that you know you're going to see the benefit and you can share with your family. And it really got me thinking about this whole greater picture. And it's been a really fun experience. And you know, we could probably custom, like if say none of us had gardens, yeah, we'd be putting a little bit more work into this farm, because we would probably have stuff in here that we'd be consuming regularly. Like we would already be harvesting some carrots. We would have had some radishes and turnips and kohlrabis and broccolinis in here. So, you know, if this farm would have been more about sustenance throughout the year, we'd have a little bit more work in here, but it wouldn't be that much, because what really makes a farm a lot of work is the day in and day out of meeting customers' needs. Whether it's filling a CSA box, delivering to restaurants, which has got to be some of the most, the biggest work that I ever did in farming was serving restaurants, or going to a farmer's market. You know, it's that consistency of meeting those demands. Whereas when you're just meeting the demand of food when people need it, there isn't a demand based on a particular timeline. It's just, if you need to eat something, come out to the farm and grab it. And so that's the only way that this might change. If I had to guess on how much work this would be if we were adding crops like that in here, such as things that we want to eat regularly, I'd probably tack on another man day per week. So throw on another 8 hours. So call it, to maintain a half acre, you would have about 16 hours of total work to get it done. And you know, the initial work would have been the same, because breaking the ground, setting up the irrigation, prepping the beds, that all would have been the same. And that's where the lion's share still at this point, by, you know, we're mid-July right now, it would have all been the same to get to where we are. So I would only add that. And yeah, it's an interesting experience. I hope more of you have really thought about doing something similar this summer. I hope that more of you are really thinking about the big picture and what could happen to our food system come fall, what's already happening. And I hope some of you are taking that seriously and finding some form of liberation and empowerment through growing your own food. And I wish you the best of luck. Have a fantastic day. We'll see you in the next video.